Hi there, I'm Michelle Burrows, Director of A+ Schools of North Carolina, and I'd like to welcome you to the Arts Are for Life Virtual Professional Development Series. This series is a collaboration between the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, the North Carolina Arts Council, and A+ Schools of North Carolina.
Hello and welcome to Adding Colors to Your Palette, the fourth and final of 4 arts integration modules in this series.
I'm Tom Nevels, Professional Development Manager for A+ Schools of North Carolina, and I'm happy to be your host for this module.
In each of the 4 arts integration modules, we will consider arts integration in general and then zoom in on one specific art form for some examples, thinking, and resources. In this module, we'll be looking at visual arts integration.
As you view this module, you may need to adjust your computer's volume for the various video segments of the module. You can always pause the video and rewind if you've missed something or need a sound adjustment.
To begin, we'll refresh our memory of the definition of arts integration. We will also take a look at some of the benefits and whys of arts integration and of visual arts integration in particular. Then we will take some time to learn about the basic elements and principles of visual art and some visual literacy strategies that you can use right away in your classroom. We'll explore some online resources to support the work and close with examples of visual art integration in action.
In Module 2, Get on Your Feet, we took a closer look at the definition of arts integration. If you've not already viewed Module 2, we invite you to pause this video now and go back and view that module for a more in-depth introduction to arts integration. For the purposes of this module, we'll use this definition from A+ Schools. Arts integration is the bringing together of arts and non-arts standards and objectives to create hands-on, experiential, connected, and meaningful learning experiences. True arts integration values both the arts and non-art standards as necessary to the learning experience.
Pause the video here to consider how you would rate your current relationship with arts integration. Are you getting started, interested in trying arts integration, and would like to know more about how to get started? Are you practicing and refining, aware of and have some experience with arts integration strategies, but still need practice and support to build new skills? Or are you mastering, competent with arts integration, and feel confident supporting other educators who want to try integration? Be sure to support your position with examples from your practice. If you're watching with a colleague, take a few moments to compare your answers. Press play again when you're ready to start the video. Now that we've defined arts integration, let's take a look at some of its benefits. A recent joint report by the Education Commission of the States and the Arts Education Partnership states, arts integration has a positive effect on student academic achievement and on personal outcomes and engagement. From closing the achievement gap for elementary math students to increasing reading scores across multiple age levels, to improving language acquisition among English language learners, a wide variety of opportunities and untapped potential exist among strategies for arts integration. Research shows the positive impact of arts integration on students' cognitive skills, engagement, and attitudes about learning.
A recent advocacy handout from the National Art Education Association speaks to visual arts education in particular. In it, the following benefits of a high-quality visual arts education are listed. It develops future workforce skills. The visual arts teach essential skills in communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and problem solving, skills essential for success in school, work, and life. It supports learning in a visual and media age. In this age of visual media and online communication, everyone needs to understand visual literacy and effective communication through the use of visual images and content design, all taught through visual arts education. We'll come back to visual literacy later in this module. It reinforces social and emotional learning. The art classroom setting helps students develop self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. It includes standards-based curriculum and assessment regarding impact and accountability. National, state, and local standards ensure comprehensive visual arts education that can be assessed. It builds cultural competency through arts learning. Study of the visual arts enables all learners to understand their world and the culture and history of others. It promotes creativity and innovation. The opportunity for students to build their capacity to be creative and innovative is inherent in the visual arts, which encourages multiple approaches to solving a problem. It develops cognitive flexibility for a future workforce. Visual art teaches the ability to transition thoughts between multiple concepts or perspectives, an essential skill in the workplace of the future. It nurtures essential early learning. Early childhood education visual literacy is a first language for communicating thoughts, developing motor skills, and communication skills, and helping children understand and make meaning of their lives within their families, schools, and communities. Finally, a high-quality visual arts education encourages meaningful parental involvement. The visual arts impact the school environment and provide positive experiences for engaging parents in the life of the school, their children's work, and participation in arts-based school events.
Now that we know what arts integration is, and the benefits of visual arts integration in particular, let's take some time to build basic knowledge in visual arts by learning about the basic elements and principles of visual arts. The elements of visual art are the components or parts of a work of art that can be isolated and defined. They are the building blocks used to create a work of art. The elements of art include line, the path of a moving point through space. Lines can be vertical, horizontal, diagonal, curved, zigzag, thick, thin, long, or short. Color is a sensation aroused in the brain by a response to different wavelengths of light. The properties of color include hue, which is the name of the color, value, which is the lightness or darkness of color, expressed as a tint or a shade, and intensity, the brightness or dullness of a color. Colors can be grouped together into different color schemes and can also communicate emotions and symbolism. Value is the lightness or darkness of grays and colors. Space, the emptiness or area between, around, above, below, or within objects. This includes both positive and negative space. The use of foreground, objects that seem closer to the viewer, middle ground, and background, objects that seem farther away from the viewer, creates perspective. Shape and form. Shape, 2 dimensions, height and width, and form, 3 dimensions, height, width, and depth. Texture, the surface quality of an object, its look and feel. The principles of visual arts are the ways in which an artist can organize the elements within a particular work of art. They are the methods used to put the building blocks we just reviewed together. Variety and contrast. The differences in a composition in regard to the line, color, shape, form, value, space, and texture. The use of variety adds excitement and interest to work. Emphasis and focus. What stands out in the composition in regard to line, color, shape, form, value, space, and texture? Balance and proportion. Balance is the similarities in the composition in regard to its elements, whereas proportion is seeing one part of the composition in relationship to another. Unity, the way the parts of the composition relate to each other to create a oneness. And finally, movement and rhythm, the suggestion or illusion of motion in a composition. Now that you've had a chance to learn a little more about the elements and principles of visual art, let's go on a scavenger hunt. As you view the following video, make notes as to which of the elements and principles of art you notice at work. Let's go back and take a second look at a few freeze frames from the video. What elements of visual art do you see at work on this section of the fence? What principles of art do you see at work? How about now? What elements of visual art do you see at work on this section of the fence? What principles of art do you see at work? Take a closer look. What elements of visual art do you see at work on this section of the fence? What principles of art do you see at work? How about now? Can you recognize any of the elements or principles of art in this photo from memory? Consider this master work, Broadway Boogie Woogie by P.A. Mondrian. Does your knowledge of the elements and principles of art change the way you consider this artwork? What elements or principles do you think the artist was focusing on in this work? Does the title of the work give you any ideas? Broadway Boogie Woogie was completed in 1943 after P.A. Mondrian had moved to New York in 1940. This painting is inspired by clear real-world examples, the city grid of Manhattan and the Broadway Boogie Woogie, a type of music that Mondrian loved. Once you've had some practice identifying elements and principles of art, you can see them everywhere. Shape, line, color, texture, and variety. Pause the video here to make a short list of the visual representations that are used most often in your curriculum. Illustrations, charts, graphs, flags, advertisements, instructional posters, even the covers of texts all have visuals designed using the elements and principles of art. Look for examples of color, used as a symbol or to communicate feelings. Ways in which emphasis is used to draw your attention. In preparation for the next section of the module, also ask yourself, what is the artist's message or purpose? If you're watching with a colleague, take a few moments to compare your answers. Press play when you're ready to start the video again. Now, let's put our basic knowledge of visual art to work in the classroom with visual literacy strategies that you can use with students across the curriculum. The basic definition of visual literacy is the ability to read, write, and create visual images. It is a concept that relates to art and design, but it also has a much wider application. Visual literacy is about language, communication, and interaction. Its purpose is to explicitly teach a collection of competencies that will help students think through, think about, and think with pictures. The following are two videos from the North Carolina Museum of Art that demonstrate two sample visual literacy strategies that can be used across the curriculum.
Nouns and adjectives is an object-based discussion strategy we use at the North Carolina Museum of Art. This strategy encourages students to consider how artists communicate information through a visual medium by observing and identifying what they see, sharing interpretations and connections, and using those findings to create new ideas and new work. Watch NCMA museum educator Camille Toole facilitate a discussion using this strategy.
Everybody gets a piece of paper and a pencil to sit with. What I want you to do is to write as much as you can and as quickly as you can, as many words. It has to be a person, place, or thing kind of word. Okay? A noun. And go. Try to make a really complete list, and then when we're done, I'll collect your list, okay?
Nouns and adjectives helps connect standards in ELA and the visual arts, and is particularly helpful for ESL and ELL learners, helping students strengthen their written and oral communication skills.
I'm going to repeat everything that you give me, so just call them out, and I'll write them down. Anyone can start. Trees. What else? Water. Rocks. Deer. Grass, mist, sky. Okay, I'm going to read the list back to you, and I want you to look at your list as I read and see if I left anything off that you recorded, okay? Trees, water, rocks, deer, fawn, waterfall, cliff, doe, woods, Virginia, evergreens, forest, Yellowstone, river, grass, mist, sky, nature, twigs, plants, mountain, dead trees, and clouds. Now, I'm going to time you again and ask you to do some more writing on the other half of your paper. And on this half, what I want you to do is to write down all of the adjectives that you see or that come to mind as you look at this work of art. So remember, adjectives are describing words. And if this one is harder to do than the last one, that's normal, and that's okay. So just come up with as many as you can, but don't stress. stop. And once again, I'm going to repeat everything that you give me, so just call them out, and I'll write them down. Steep, okay? Oh, steep, sorry. Natural, okay? Beautiful. Bending. Misty. White. Brown. What else? Mysterious. Okay, I'm going to read my list. This is a great list, actually. I have just as many on this side as I do on the other, so you really came up with a lot. I'm going to read it out to you, and I want you to just look at your own list and make sure I didn't miss anything that you jotted down. I've got green, blue, rugged, full, rocky, flowing, fast, sharp, dirty, rather strange, big, pretty, wet, steep, natural, beautiful, bending, misty, white, brown, mysterious, and dead. Peaceful, okay? Someone gave me the word wet. Yeah.
When I was looking at it, I almost thought like that I was in it, and if I were in it, I would definitely get wet.
So what did the artist do to give you the sense of wet?
And there's like mist, and it hits you because it goes all the way around.
Well, thank you again for participating in this conversation. You all came up with amazing words, and something that I was really impressed by while you were working, when you were writing, you were all writing so quickly, and as you're writing, you would look up, and your eyes were going all over the work of art. And that's what we really try to get people to do when they come to the museum. So thank you for that.
I See, I Wonder is an inquiry-based discussion strategy used at the North Carolina Museum of Art to encourage learners to construct meaning from their own questions and seek answers based on what they see. Watch North Carolina Museum of Art educator Camille Toole guide a conversation using the I Wonder strategy.
I would like for us to turn our attention to this work of art and just look at it again, just for one quiet minute. And don't say anything yet about the work of art. Just take a quiet look. My first question is, what do you see?
I see a mosaic.
Brooke sees a mosaic. Izzy?
I see different types of like quilt squares.
Izzy sees different types of quilt squares. Andrew?
I see different squares and rectangles all put together.
Okay, so Andrew sees different squares and rectangles all put together. Okay, so you're seeing lots, you're using your eyes. Keep looking, keep thinking about the work of art. And I have a second question for you, and I'm actually going to start down here with Lev. And the question is, what does this work of art make you wonder?
What was their inspiration?
What was the artist's inspiration in creating this piece? How about you? What does the work make you wonder?
Like, why did the artist make this work of art?
Okay, so why? Why do artists make works of art anyway? But why specifically did this artist make this work of art?
The strength of this strategy is that teachers benefit from hearing students' questions about the work of art and their own areas of interest. Students work together to seek answers to their questions, and the strategy can provide students with opportunities for inquiry and research-based responses.
Thank you for taking the time to look at this work with me today. Is there anything else as we sit with the piece? Any new things that you're wondering about as we talk? Yeah.
Let's take a look at another master work. Consider this painting by American artist Norman Rockwell. What visual thinking strategies that you just saw demonstrated could you use to explore this artwork further with your students? Rockwell, known most famously for illustrating the covers of the Saturday Evening Post, also painted pictures illustrating some of his deepest concerns and interest, including civil rights, America's war on poverty, and the exploration of space. He painted this study in response to the brutal murders of 3 young civil rights workers by Klansmen in Philadelphia, Mississippi on June 21, 1964. For more training and tips on using visual thinking strategies in your classroom, visit NCMA Learn at learn.ncartmuseum.org. In a moment, you will pause the video and open a new browser window. Your instructions are to visit one or more of the additional websites listed in the resources for this module, linked below. Take as much time as you like to investigate each for visual images and lesson plans that you might use to support your curriculum. Be sure to download or bookmark any materials that you find for later use. If you are watching with a colleague, you may wish to visit different sites and share your discoveries. Pause the video now to do some research and press play when you're ready to continue. Now that you've learned the basics with the elements and principles of visual art and had a chance to practice spotting them in the wild and in artworks, how do you begin integrating this knowledge into your lessons? The development of visual arts integrated lessons begins with the North Carolina State Standards, or the state standards for your own state if you aren't viewing from North Carolina, for both arts and non-arts content.
In a moment, you will pause the video again and open a second browser window to pull up the North Carolina State Standards, or the standards for your own state if you aren't viewing from North Carolina. For a more detailed introduction to the North Carolina State Standards in the arts and how they can be used by every teacher, please view the first module in this series, Module 1, Double Standards. To access the North Carolina State Standards, point your browser to www.ncpublicschools.org and click the K-12 Curriculum button at the top left of the menu underneath the page banner. On the curriculum page, use the links shown in the menu on the left to navigate to the subject area desired. Then, use the links in the center of the page to select the desired grade level.
In just a moment, you will pause the video to take some time exploring the visual art standards associated with the grade level that you teach. As you read through the standards, note the vocabulary we have discussed in this module. Make note of any words or concepts with which you are not familiar and take some time to familiarize yourself with their meanings. Make notes of which visual art standards seem to have potential connections to the standards in your own subject area. Pause the video now to do some research and press play when you're ready to continue. Let's take a look at another masterwork, this time Tree of Life by Minnie Evans. What is going on in this picture? What do you see that makes you say that? What more can we find? What curricular ties could you make to this art? One of North Carolina's folk art treasures, Minnie Evans from Wilmington, North Carolina, was nearly 50 years old before she started drawing in earnest. Evans slowly evolved an iconography that includes plants and flowers, birds and butterflies and winged animals, cornucopias and rainbows, royalty, stars, and angels. Symmetry controls the bursting compositions, imposing a balance that underscores Evans' view of God's proportioned design. In Module 5, Fascinating Rhythms, we spoke more about the continuum of arts experiences that can be offered to students. If you have not already viewed Module 5, we invite you to pause this video now and go back and view that module for a more in-depth discussion of that continuum. From learning about art and appreciating it as a viewer, to making fine art, to using art as a tool for teaching, there are many valid and valuable ways to include arts in your curriculum. In this next section, you'll see educators share with us about how they integrate visual arts in their lessons.
My name is Elizabeth Messick, and I'm the kindergarten through 4th grade visual art teacher at the arts-based school in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. As much as possible, we try to integrate all the subjects into visual art. Here's an example of a 3rd grade project where we have integrated science and art. It is based on the master work of Van Gogh's 12 sunflowers, and we start by sketching the sunflowers in one class. So one class period we're doing quick draw, and we sketch the sunflowers, and so they draw them as best they can using their observational skills. And then we look at the artwork and the life of Vincent van Gogh. In the next class, we actually dissect the sunflowers. They draw them again, realistically, and we dissect them, and we learn about the different parts of the flower, and they can even glue some of the pieces of the flower into their journals. Finally, in the 3rd class, we draw the sunflowers very large. I do a little glue resist with them, and that dries. And in the 4th class, they come back and they can abstract their work, do any color that they want. So this really takes it all the way from realism to abstraction. It brings in a masterwork and science.
I personally love Impressionism. My inspiration was Monet's wheat stacks. I first displayed wheat stacks. Then we created a circle map. I wanted them to create a cinquain, which is a 5-line poem. We created a tree map of cinquain terms. I have one example of a cinquain by Marlene. She wrote wheat stacks, lonely, abandoned, standing, showing, glowing, a cold, crisp morning, bundles. They came up with a lot of really neat observations. They thought it might look like a teepee. Others thought it looked like a cupcake or a muffin. And I asked them, well, how does it make you feel? So you'll see feeling words like it feels cold. Then we took all those terms and we created our tree map to get them ready to write their cinquain poem. I wanted to make sure they understood certain key vocabulary terms that would apply to this type of art, like balance, content, line, space, mood, hue, and texture. The students created their own paintings using cotton swabs and tempera paint. This is a whale by Melissa. Whale, colorful, bright, jumping, dipping, staring, alone in the middle of the ocean, mammal. Horizon by Trinity. Horizon, lonely, colorful, shining, glowing, shadowing, alone in beauty, orange. Flower tree. Flower tree, colorful, happy, standing, glowing, sparkling, the flower on a cloudy day, plant. She had a little bit of Van Gogh in her, too. You can see the swirls. Little Israel. He wrote beach, huge blue, sailing, exciting, flowing, beautiful, flowing waters, island. This was just such a great experience for me.
We decided to collaborate because this is one way we can enhance what we've gained from here. This is the painting that we decided, which is Man with the Hoe. Our questions were strategically going to lead them to the empathy and the cultural awareness and the social awareness with this artist.
What amazed us was that our kids just responded. Truly, I saw something in them that all this time I had missed. We're teaching so systematically. It almost made me ashamed of myself. That's pretty much going back to this whole program of art. We were pleasantly surprised, both of us.
We were both excited. We'd get on the phone and we'd say, oh yes, my student said this. And so it was now this energy coming back and forth, just enlivening in our classroom. Here is one of the poetries that came out from my class. I'm a hardworking farmer. I'm not delighted by the harsh rays of the sun. I am tan, like the soil. I'm harvesting, but I'm not rewarded by my work. I'm sweating, but I'm not giving up.
My student, Yasmin, who is an ELL learner. I am tired, dirty, and thirsty. I am not royalty, high class, or popular. I'm not posing for a portrait. I am brown, like the soil beneath me. I am like a machine, endlessly working, but I am not a workhorse. I am not clean, fancy, or king. I'm not rich. I'm just a hard worker.
What we gained by working together is we're ready to now have the confidence to guide our students through this whole entire lesson. We also learned that they had their own language. Even though two eyes were looking at an artwork, there was still so much the students were giving us. So I definitely developed a higher confidence.
It was almost a surprise what we gained. It almost worked from the inside out. I saw that happening somehow to my children. There was this genuine language and excitement that they had already possessed.
What came out of our students were unique and authentic poetries. All of a sudden, we were a community, and we were in a community even though we were two different classrooms. So this was a reminder to us that art was this poetic language and that everybody was included. Everybody in the classroom was included, including myself.
In just a moment, you will pause the video to consider the following questions. In each lesson, what elements or principles of art did students learn and demonstrate? What visual literacy strategies did teachers use with their students? What art and non-arts standards were being taught? And were there opportunities for art viewing, art making, or both? Finally, how can art enrich and improve the learning in your classroom? If you're watching with a colleague, take a few moments to compare your answers. Press play when you're ready to continue.
As we close this module, let's recap on what we've learned. Firstly, we defined what arts integration is and why it's a good idea. Then, we built a foundation of basic art knowledge by exploring the elements and principles of visual art. We put that knowledge to work with visual literacy strategies that can be used in every classroom. We explored online resources to support visual arts integration, and we took a look at several approaches to using arts in the classroom. Hopefully, through this exploration, you have a deeper understanding of what arts integration is and inspiration and resources to integrate visual arts in your classroom.
We thank you for participating in the Arts Are for Life Virtual Professional Development Series. This series is a collaboration between the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, the North Carolina Arts Council, and A+ Schools of North Carolina. This concludes the module.